I have a special treat for you today. So here in the kitchen is Abby Artemisia. She's the author of Herbal Handbook, right? Yes, a wonderful book for homesteaders. So tell me, how did you get started making herbal salts? Or like when, like I've been dreaming about it for a long time, but I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, I think I just started tasting other people's salts and I loved the way they tasted. And I had a friend who made salts out of all kinds of things and really cool combos, but it was mostly out of garden herbs or grocery store herbs, like throw in a little bit of citrus peel or a little bit of black pepper, mix different kinds of salts in there. And I just love playing around with different wild herbs and thinking about which ones are aromatic, right? We want to pick those aromatic herbs along with herbs that of course taste good and are medicinal as well, so that we're eating our medicine. So I just started playing around, and I think both of our favorites is bee balm.
Yeah.
So that was the first salt that I made, and I call it my wild oregano salt because some people call bee balm wild oregano, and it really tastes like oregano to me. And a lot of these, like horse mint, have so much thymol in them, like actually more than thyme, which is a great antimicrobial. So good for these nutty times that we're in.
Yes, definitely. So good for the respiratory system. Probably one of the best herbs, I think, to make a salt with, because it is, like you said, so aromatic. So you want to think about that, which makes sense. And it's really easy to grow if you live on the coast. But you can grow almost any Monarda species, no matter where you live. There's a native somewhere, and I highly recommend growing the native, because you can buy them at the nursery, but it's not going to be the same as a native species.
Right.
It won't be as resilient, and it probably won't have as many oils. Like if you think about that.
Definitely.
But anyhow, so should we talk a little bit about the herbs?
Yeah, definitely.
So, of course, when you're making an herbal salt, right, you have to have the herbs. And I thought 3, right? The Trinity, 3 would be a good number. And so I was thinking Eastern horsemint, the Monarda, which is Monarda punctata, and then bay leaves, Persea bourbonia, because they're aromatic. Yeah. And they have antimicrobial oils, and they're amazing. And I thought, well, since I'm breaking this, coffee grinder out, I might as well get the bay leaves, because it's going to take this and I hope it does a decent job, to crush this into like a fine powder to mix with Eastern horsemint. And then the number 3 was a little tricky, because I was like, could be Eastern red cedar, like just a tad bit, maybe the berries. Yeah. But I think I thought just a hint of wax myrtle would be so fun, and I would love it. Hopefully my daughter won't mind, because we're both popcorn fanatics. So I'm going to use this for popcorn and my eggs, I think, in the morning. Yeah. But just a little bit of wax myrtle, and so like 1-to-1 with the Eastern horsemint and the bay leaves, and then 1/4 wax myrtle. And so salt wise, I just got what I had in the cupboard, but a lot of recipes call for coarse salt. So I don't know if you want to talk about like what kind of salts you gravitate towards.
Yeah, sure. So I feel like, it's so important in herbalism that we make it accessible for people. So I just say use what you have, and if that's white table salt, go for it. And a lot of times what I have on hand is fine salt. I actually love real salt, which comes from the salt flats in Utah. And so I've been using that recently because we don't have to deal with the microplastics that are in sea salt now. But there's so many cool salts out there, but definitely use what you have. I don't think it matters if it's coarse or if it's fine.
You just introduced something, microplastics and sea salt. I'm like, that's new to me. Come on, I don't live in Asheville, so I don't stay up to date on everything. Right. No, I mean, Asheville's like so aware, of everything. But I mean, I am a little bit about like those, the little plastic pellets I've heard. You were telling me about that, Dan. Dan behind the camera was telling me. Yeah, and actually, I don't want to go off topic too much, but my daughter's stuffy broke the other day, and all these little beads came out, and I was like, don't buy those little stuffies with the micro beads, plastic beads. But anyhow, I love that. Now I wonder why we're friends. Use what you have, right? Because I was like, I called Abby and I was like, all I have is this iodized salt and the sea salt that I use actually to make herbal bath salts.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's fine. We don't have to go to the store and get coarse sea salt.
For sure.
So we're just going to use what we have. So anyhow, should we get started?
Yeah, sure. I also just want to tell people, as far as ratios go of herbs to salt, there is a wide range of what you can do. So I also have a foraged cookbook that's called The Wild Forage Life. People can find it at thewanderschool.com. And I have a couple recipes in there for wild salts, and one of them is that bee balm salt. And in that one, I use a lot more salt and less bee balm. And then I have another recipe for za'atar, which is a Mediterranean spice, and that one has ground sumac berries in it, bee balm, and then nettles and salt, and it's almost all herbs and just a tiny bit of salt. So I'd encourage everybody to experiment and find what you like.
That's a really good point, because everybody has a different palate. You
Yeah.
know? And I think it goes back to your constitution a little bit. Like my husband loves salt, and he's Vata, you know, and I can't do a lot of salt, and I have a lot of heat and pitta. So I'm like, I don't know if it does, you know, has something to do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But the za'atar thing is definitely appealing to me, because I would like less salt and more herbs.
Right.
And so I think that's why I was thinking like a 1-to-1 ratio. So I want just as much salt as I want herbs. And I think 1-to-1 ratios are so easy to remember. So it doesn't matter. And they're really easy to replicate, because you don't have to worry about how much salt or how many herbs you have. Just do a 1-to-1, you know, no matter what you have. We're going to add the herbs to this coffee grinder, okay? But as Abby was saying earlier, if we don't, I don't know if we'll edit it out, but hopefully not, that she was saying that you don't have to have a coffee grinder. You can just use your hands and crumble up the herbs really fine and mix it with the salt. So don't feel like you have to have a coffee grinder. And then make sure it wasn't used. So this is 1/3 cup of Eastern horse mint. And then I'm going to put the bay leaves in there. It's a little hard. Bay leaves are awesome. There's a seed in there or something, I think a rose seed. So, wow, it's perfect. So it's 1/3 cup. And then I'm just gonna do this tiny little bit of wax myrtle. If I had to measure it, I would probably say a tablespoon. And I'm gonna turn this on, so it's probably gonna get loud. What do you think, longer?
Yeah, a little bit louder.
Oh, it smells so good. Smell that.
Oh, wow.
That's really good.
That's
Okay, I'm patenting this. I can't share it, okay? Okay, now we're gonna do 1/3 cup of salt, and we'll mix it. So I'm gonna do half table salt, and then this is iodized kosher salt, and this is pink Himalayan salt. And then I'm gonna put it in here. Are you gonna do it?
Sure. And then putting the salt in there after we grind the herbs just helps mix it all together a little bit better.
Oh la la! Don't you wish you could see? No, I'm joking. We'll show you. Wow.
Yeah.
You want to smell it? What do you think? Should we add more? I almost feel like I could add more herbs.
Oh, I think it smells great.
Do you think it smells good like that?
Yeah, because maybe if your daughter's going to be eating it, she might not want it so heavy on the herbs.
That's a good point.
So, but that's the great thing about herbalism, right? We can make it however we want. We can make a little for her like this. We can add more herbs for us.
A mama jar. I think I might add some garlic powder. I have
Oh,
some
that
garlic
sounds
powder.
great.
Where is it? And it is
Yeah.
so hard and crumbly. You know how why does garlic powder do that? You know, and then you can't get
Does
it
that
out.
to me all the time. Yep.
There's gotta be a
This
trick.
is a great solution for that, right?
Yes.
And one more thing I would add too, I think some of you will probably ask, does it matter if we add in dried herbs or fresh herbs?
Yes.
And so like
That's an
April
important
said,
part.
this is a great thing to do with dried herbs that are just hanging out in our apothecary, right? That aren't doing anybody any good sitting there. But we can also add fresh herbs, and I actually prefer when I have them to add fresh herbs because salt is hydrophilic. So for us scientists, that means that it basically draws the water out. So it draws the water out of the herbs that we're working with. And I feel like with the water, it also brings out the flavor and helps infuse the salt. So I feel like fresh herbs or dried herbs are great, and you can just play around with ratios. Just like cooking, your ratios are probably going to be a little bit different depending on whether you're working with fresh or dried herbs.
Now, what about, do you have to dry it? Like once you mix the fresh herbs with the salt, do you have to dry it again so it doesn't turn?
I don't dry it as long as, you know, your ratios are about 1 to 1 or so. If you had, like, I actually make ramp salt. That was part of the way I was introduced to this, working with the ramp leaves to make a really sustainable harvest. So we leave the bulbs in the ground. But then we're using a much higher quantity of leaves, and they're very fresh and juicy. So I do dry that afterwards. But if you have a smaller quantity of fresh herbs and they're not super wet, then it just infuses into the salt and dries like that. But you would want to see what it looks like once it's done infusing and how wet it is.
Yeah, did you just lay it out on a pan and let it sit?
I actually put it in the dehydrator.
You put it in the dehydrator.
Yeah.
I was reading that you can put it like in the stove at the lowest setting. You can do that and let it dry. If folks have a gas oven and they have a pilot light, they could just leave it on with the pilot light. If you don't have that, you could just turn the oven light on and that will add just a tiny bit of temperature, or put it on the very lowest setting and be careful and check it often so it doesn't burn or cook, you know. Yeah, that's good advice. Yeah, the one herbal salt recipe that I was looking at online, like she used fresh herbs and it was this beautiful green color. So I could see that being the benefit, because like I was hoping this would be more green. I mean, it is, and I'll show you pictures. I'll put it in the video, but I could see how the fresh herbs would make this beautiful green salt. Yeah. Because of the moisture and the chlorophyll, right, coming out into the salt, which is really cool. So I think I might add sesame seeds, because I was telling Abby that I love putting sesame seeds on my popcorn. Yeah. And this is actually going to be just popcorn.
You might want to put the sesame seeds in after,
you think so?
They don't get ground up and they're still whole and
that's a good
pretty.
Point. Yeah, that's a good point.
But that's also another great thought. Like if you've heard of gomasio, that is an Asian spice where they combine sesame seeds with other herbs. And I've seen herbalists do really cool things, throwing in some herbs that have a little bit of natural salt in them, like nettles, or you could do dandelion leaves, things like that, and it would be super delicious. Throw a little, I think seaweed is a natural ingredient in gomasio. So
I'll have to look that up, gomasio.
Yeah.
I was actually reading about herbs that occur on the beach that you can make salt with. Maybe that'll be what we'll have to do next, like how to make your own salt from plants without buying salt. Yeah, that would be really fun. Well, I won't put the sesame seeds in there. I was thinking, because they always fall to the bottom of the bowl, and then just like I never get them. But maybe I'll try it later. When you're not looking. Or for my mom. It would grind it up really well. It's just like garlic powder.
Oh, it smells amazing.
All right, I'll do it one more time, a couple more times, and I think it's done. All right. So that's how easy it is. So you guys can see. The garlic, actually, it could have gone a little longer because it's not, you can see it's like big chunks.
Yeah, that's okay. It'll be good for folks who like garlic.
Yeah, it's true. So now we're definitely going to have popcorn tonight. Definitely. Yeah, we got to try it. I actually haven't eaten yet, so I'm going to have my egg and some wild garlic mustard and have that with that. Yeah. I forgot to put pepper in it, but I'll just add it and mix it in, because I think I just want like one thing that I can use instead of bringing out 5 jars when I make popcorn. Well, thank you so much for coming and doing this. It's an inspiration. Like, you inspired me to make this for real. And I won't even break out the other spice that we have to do here. What is it again? Blendera, benzoin, spice bush.
Oh, spice bush.
Yes,
yeah,
spice
spice bush berries are amazing, and I put those in my wild salts as well. And pine, spruce, and fir needles are great. There's just so many options. Wild onions. So
there's some across the street. Filled garlic. I harvested some. I was thinking about that when you were talking about the ramps. I was like, my little brain was going. Is there anything else we should know about herbal salts before we end the video?
I would just encourage everybody to experiment. Make your own recipes. Try recipes you find first if you're nervous about not doing it right. And then just start tasting the wild plants around you that, of course, you know are not toxic. And think of really interesting recipes and what would taste good, right? Like, we could make a fish salt. That would be great for seafood.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah. And we can throw in some of those herbs that our body needs every day or our particular constitution.
Yeah, that's great advice. Well, thank you so much for coming. This is Abby Artemisia. She's the owner and Artemisia. She's the owner and founder of the Wonder School, and now there's a branch, the Wildcraft School, right?
Wildcrafted Herb School.
Yeah, Wildcrafted Herb School, which I love. She's an excellent wild crafter, so I highly recommend going and checking her out on social media, and I'll put her information in the comments. Definitely like the video if you enjoyed this, and if you make an herbal salt, please share in the comments which one you do. Or I always say this, and I haven't had very many people take me up on this yet, so I hope you do, that if you make an herbal salt and you tag Yahola Herbal School, I will give you something, a gift from the apothecary, because I think that would be fun, you know?
Yeah.
Just sharing with your friends, sharing with someone that you think would actually want to make this with you. And these herbs, all the ones that I use today, are extremely common and abundant and along the coast. So very easy to find, very easy to do. I'm sure you got salt in your home. So give it a try and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and we'll keep bringing the content. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have Abby come back and do some more, because this is a lot of fun. So thank you.
So much fun. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Well, be well, plant friend. Until next time.